For those who have been in a coma, Joe Biden is now our president. He was sworn in on the... I don't think anyone in the world doesn't know this information already. Can you imagine? I'm saying this and someone goes, Joe Biden's the president? When did that happen?
Literally the whole world.
The whole world knows this, right? This is not brand new news, but we still got to say it because it makes me feel good because this is the first Monday since we've been doing our show that we can say someone is president other than Pumpkin. Right?
Yes.
Our first Monday ever. We don't have to talk about President Donald Trump anymore. We now talk about President Joe Biden, who was sworn in as the 46th president of the United States last week. He and Vice President Kamala Harris were sworn in without the typical crowds or the presence of the outgoing pumpkin, although Mike Pence was in attendance. He said, "We must end this uncivil war that pits red versus blue, rural versus urban, conservative versus liberal. We can do this if we open our souls instead of harden our hearts." In addition to that, the Democrats took over the Senate with the inauguration of Kamala Harris. She is the tiebreaker because two senators from Georgia also got seated on and sworn in on Wednesday with Joe Biden. That is Senator Warnock and Senator Ossoff, both the first black and first Jewish senators representing Georgia. And President Biden is now expressing through his press secretary that his expectations for the media are that he will vow transparency and honesty. So hopefully that will continue. Let's talk about immigration. Okay? Yeah. And we had 3.5 years of bad immigration news. Yes. But now we have a lot of good immigration news that I am going to break down for everybody right now. Number one, President Biden has signed an executive order. He has revoked the Muslim and African travel bans. The bans affected people from Iran, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Kyrgyzstan, Myanmar, Somalia, Nigeria, Sudan, Eritrea, and Tanzania.
Both my countries.
Those bans are now lifted.
Both of my countries. Can you believe that? Both of my countries were in there, Eritrea and Nigeria.
Can you imagine that if you didn't come here or your family didn't come here at an earlier time, you would be stuck where you were?
I would be stuck.
There would be no yo-yo. Yeah. You are a positive addition. Many people are positive additions.
I would like to think so.
Okay, you are. You are. So it was obviously nothing more than racism, pure and simple. Jack Sullivan, President Biden's national security advisor, told reporters that the order directs the State Department to return to normal processing of applications for people who have been impacted by this ban. The bans have led to thousands of children, spouses, parents being separated. It's going to take some time because it was 3 years of people who didn't get visas and green cards. They got to start ramping up their staff at these various U.S. embassies. But we should expect that people, we have a lot of viewers from Nigeria. We have a lot of viewers from all of these places, as a matter of fact. But you should expect that applications will start being processed at these U.S. embassies today, and will start ramping up and going faster as we go. Joe Biden has also put a ban on deportations for the next 100 days. Now, what that ban is, it's a ban on deportations with people who don't have criminal records. So if you are in deportation or you have an order of deportation and you do not have a criminal record, you are safe at least for the next 100 days while Joe Biden and his Department of Homeland Security staff decide how to revamp removal laws. So we'll see how that goes along. Now, also, good news for people living on the border, there is no more a national emergency on the border anymore. So when Donald Trump came to become president, he declared a national emergency on the border. Remember, it was a fake emergency. Nothing bad was happening on the border, nothing unusual more than what was happening in the past. As a matter of fact, there was less asylum seekers when Trump came than it was 4, 8, 12 years ago earlier. Nevertheless, Trump said national emergency. And not only is there a national emergency on the border so he can bring in the military to patrol the border, but he started diverting funds to build the wall between Mexico and the United States. Remember, the Mexicans were going to pay for it. The Mexicans never paid for it. It was the U.S. taxpayer who paid for it. It was a wall that was supposed to be impenetrable. But if you remember in our schmooze from about 9 months ago, people were buying saws at the Home Depot, were able to cut right through that wall. They only made a couple hundred miles out of over 1,000 miles border between the United States and Mexico. Joe Biden has stopped the construction, period. I don't know what's going to happen with the existing border wall. They haven't said.
That's what I was about to ask.
I don't know what's going to happen with it. They haven't said what they're going to do with it. But the work on the border wall is now over. Now, also, what is really good for people who are on the border, Donald Trump had put something called the Migrant Protection Protocols Program. The Migrant Protection Protocols Program was that people who are on the border, who came from Guatemala, Honduras, Central America, mostly through Mexico to the border, prior to Donald Trump, you would be able to go in to a border, apply for asylum, be admitted and paroled into the United States, and await your hearing in the United States of America. Donald Trump changed that, and he instituted what was called the Migrant Protection Protocols Program. It was also known as the Stay in Mexico and Don't Come to America program. And what that law said was that you only were able to go and apply for asylum at certain border posts. They had a queue or a quota on the number, they called it metering, but for all intents and purposes, it was a quota on the number of people who were able to apply for asylum on any given day. And once that number was reached, it doesn't matter how bad of a situation you were coming from, it doesn't matter how bad of a situation you have in Mexico, you're not being interviewed for asylum. And people were waiting on the border months and months and months and months and months to apply for asylum. And then they passed another law as part of this migrant protection program that said that if you crossed into another country on your way to the United States overland, you had to apply for asylum in that country first. So basically eliminating every person's ability who came from the southern border to apply for asylum in the United States. Out of 42,000 cases that were applied for by December 2020 for asylum at the border, there was a lot more than 42,000 people who wanted to apply, remember, but they had this quota on the number of people that they would interview on any given day. Out of the 42,000 people who applied for asylum, only 638 people were granted relief in immigration court. So this entire program is now coming to an end. They are going to go back to the old system of if you come to the United States and you apply for asylum and you have a credible fear of returning to your home country and you can establish that, you'll be allowed to come in and present your case before an immigration judge.
Nice.
All right. Joe Biden has signed an executive order. It doesn't really have a lot of teeth, but just reaffirming his belief in fortifying the DACA program, which means that DACA, as long as Joe Biden is president, is safe for people to apply for DACA, and it is safe for people to reapply if your DACA is expiring for DACA without any fear of retaliation. Now, he has also extended for Liberians, because there wasn't a Liberian amnesty, but a lot of people did not get to apply for the Liberian amnesty yet or didn't get those applications approved. He has applied for an extension for all Liberians in the United States for deferred and forced departure for another 18 months. So unless you commit a serious crime, then you're from Liberia, you should not expect to see ICE or immigration come visit you at least the next 18 months. In addition, remember we talked about the census, Yo-Yo, and how Donald Trump wanted to not count people who were here out of status, because the Constitution says that they have to count every person living in America. And that's how they apportion congressmen and the Electoral College, and that's how they apportion how funds get distributed from state to state. Donald Trump wanted to not count people who are out of status. That they have been counting people out of status. They've been counting every human being in the United States since the beginning of the census count dating back to the 1700s? Well, Joe Biden has gone back to the old laws from 270 or 50 years, whatever it is we have here in the United States. They're going to count every person as part of the census. You know, one of the things he's doing as part of the amnesty bill, we talk about this all the time, Yo-Yo, is that he's going to change the language in the Immigration and Nationality Act. Right now, the language talks about aliens and illegality. And literally, there is nothing illegal about being an undocumented individual here in the United States. So they are going to now change the law and actually change the words in the law in the Immigration Nationality Act. You will no longer be called an alien. You will no longer be called illegal. You are going to be just called a non-citizen. Part of the problem with the discourse in immigration in America is the fact that the news and the public are using the wrong words. When they hear the word illegal, it sounds like you're a criminal rather than using the word undocumented. When you use the word alien, it sounds like you come from another world. You're from Mars or Jupiter rather than you're a human being. We have undocumented human beings. We don't have illegal aliens. You know, and if perhaps the political discourse was a little different, we would be having a different conversation right now.
Thank you for breaking it down. I mean, I don't think I could have done that better.
Yeah, I've been talking about this for years. For years.
Right.
It was so important.
What I was saying. You were the first person that actually brought that up that I remember, like, hearing about that. And I was like, you're actually right. Who do we call aliens? People from outer space, things that don't really exist, things that, you know, we're afraid of. Like, it's a negative word that, you know, they use to talk about, you know, an individual. So you were the first person that I remember saying that to me.
And as a matter of fact, for those who watched or listened, there was no watching, listening to my radio show before we were on YouTube and Facebook, I was talking about that for over a decade.
Wow.
This is something that's bothered me, at least, for over a decade. As part of his executive orders, Joe Biden is having a thorough review of the poverty guideline requirements that Donald Trump put in place. Those are the 944 forms, the ones that have been making it very, very difficult for people to file for their children or their elderly parents, because part of the 944 is, are you able to work and support yourself? And children and elderly people, by their nature, are not able to work. Or elderly people would have health issues, and if they don't come with health care, then they would be denied. All of this now has not changed yet, so when you have to file an adjustment application or you are going to the U.S. Embassy for your immigrant visa, you still have to do these additional poverty guideline forms and requirements, but Joe Biden signed an order to look into it, to review it, and to change it if necessary. So look forward, at least some point in the future, to changes in the poverty guideline requirements. Let's talk about the amnesty and what they're going to be doing. Now, Yo-Yo, there is no actual transcript of the law that has been released by the Biden administration. So nobody has gotten an opportunity to actually read what is being proposed. Everything we know is what has been reported in the newspapers and what has been reported by the Biden administration to various professional organizations. But what has not happened yet is nobody has seen the release of the actual legislation that Biden has submitted to Congress. Eventually it will come out and we'll be able to read it. So anybody who says at this moment they've read the law, this is what it says, nobody's read it yet because it hasn't been publicly released. So everything that I am telling you is based on what has been reported to professional organizations and what has been reported in the newspaper. And this is what I know at the moment. They are going to make an amnesty for people who are part of the DACA program. So if you qualify for the DACA program and you have not applied for it yet, you would be quite silly not to do it now. In other words, do it right now, because if you apply, you will most likely be included in the Dreamer amnesty if you qualify. If you don't apply and you say, well, I would qualify for DACA, but I never did it, well, then you're going to be out. So make sure, A, you apply if you qualify, and B, you should cover your bases or cover your ass, as they say, yo-yo. So if there's a lot of people who had DACA who let it expire because they said, what do I need it for? I'm working, nobody's bothering me, nobody's asking any questions. Go renew it and make sure that you are in the program now, because we don't know exactly how they are going to make this law. Is it going to be if you qualified for DACA, you can get amnesty? If you are in DACA, you can get amnesty? But what about people who are in DACA but never renewed their DACA and let it expire? We don't know. Go renew it. Don't take any chances, because the amnesty that they're proposing for DACA and for everybody who had TPS is automatic green card versus a conditional status for everybody else. So if you are part of the DACA program, you are part of a TPS program, no matter what country you came from, you will, based on what is being reported, you will be eligible to adjust your status and get an amnesty immediately. Amnesty means green card, lawful residence for you and your family.
Is there a certain way, like you need a lawyer to apply for DACA and stuff?
Well, yeah, you would need a lawyer to apply for DACA, and I'll be frank with you, you would need a lawyer to apply for the amnesty, and you better get a good one. And I'll tell you why.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
What is going to ultimately happen, if it happens, this is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for people. This opportunity for an amnesty, I can guarantee you if it passes, will never happen again, at least in Uncle Brad's lifetime, which is another 30 years or 40 years. So if you think that it's going to be a simple thing and you're just going to go file it and you screw it up, you will never have this opportunity again.
Wow.
I can almost guarantee you that. Go hire a good lawyer. Go make sure you know what you're doing. It's amnesty for DACA. It is amnesty for people who had TPS. So what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to prove you were in the DACA program. You're going to have to prove you were in the TPS program. Most likely you will have to prove good moral character, perhaps poverty guidelines, perhaps no criminal records. So if you do have criminal records, maybe you need to vacate some of them. We don't know all the specifics yet. It's also going to be green cards for people who work on farms, farm workers. If you're able to prove that you worked on a farm for a certain period of time. So all of this is going to require you to save all of your documentation. In addition, if you are an unauthorized human being in the United States of America, as of January 1st, 2001, you will be eligible for some sort of conditional status. It will not be a green card. Whether or not you're able to travel, we don't know yet, but you will certainly be eligible for work permission and to be legal in America and avoid deportation. And that conditional status will be over a 5-year period. That's why I'm saying if you're part of DACA, go renew it, because DACA recipients are going to be able to adjust immediately. TPS recipients are going to be able to adjust immediately. Farm workers are going to be able to adjust immediately. Everybody else who's undocumented is going to get some sort of 5-year status. We don't know what that means yet. We know it's going to be work authorization. And that conditional status after 5 years, provided you do certain things, such as probably pay your taxes, stay out of trouble, maybe some other things as well, we don't know yet. Then you could apply for your green card 5 years later. And then after that, 3 years after that, apply for your citizenship. That's not all, Yo-Yo.
Okay.
They are going to make additional visas available for all of the backlogs in the family-based petitions. When brothers and sisters are 10, 15 years, adult married children 10, 15 years or longer to wait for a green card, those backlogs are going to be reduced dramatically. That's why I've always said for years, just get in the system, because when they do change the law, they have to deal with this backlog. I knew it. So get in the system. It will benefit you even if it's a 15-year wait. I would still urge people to file for their brothers and sisters, to file for their adult children, because most likely after this law passes, they will not allow it. That's my guess. My guess is there'll be no more filing for brothers and sisters, no more filing for adult married children. They're going to say, we're going to reduce the backlog of the people who've already filed, and everybody else out of luck. So if you do have a brother and sister you want to file for, you do. This is my guess. I don't know. Nobody knows for sure, but I'm telling you what I really believe. Or if you have an adult son or daughter, file now. It doesn't hurt. Just a filing fee. File now, because forever hold your peace. I really think, because what's going to happen is they're going to say, okay, we're giving millions of green cards. We've got to take green cards away from somebody somewhere.
Right.
So where are they going to take them away? Well, for the future, we're not going to allow, adult U.S. citizens to file for married children. We're not going to allow U.S. citizens to file for their brothers and sisters. I can almost assure you. Why do I almost assure you? Because every time in the past when they almost passed this legislation over the last 30 years, brothers and sisters and married children of U.S. citizens were the first ones to get cut. So that's always was on the table. They're also going to eliminate the 3- and 10-year bars if you leave the United States and overstayed your time to go home to get a green card. So no more provisional waivers. You'll just be able to go home and get your green card, hopefully. Okay. Hopefully. They are also going to make spouses and children under 21 of permanent residents immediate relatives. So we don't have, so people who are married permanent residents will be in the same position as people who marry U.S. citizens. Even if you overstayed your time, you don't have to wait for a green card. You will be immediately eligible to adjust your status. And finally, they're going to increase the per-country limits for family-based immigrants and employment immigrants. The backlog for people from India, for example, in employment-based cases could be 40, 50 years. That backlog is going to be eliminated. The backlog for family members from the Philippines, some categories are 30 years long. Those backlogs will be eliminated as well. They're going to eliminate the per-country limit for all employment-based cases, meaning that right now they limit that only 6% of any particular country can immigrate from employment-based cases to the United States of America, which is why India and China have such large backlogs, because there's a lot of IT people coming from those countries. Those per-country limits will be eliminated, and this whole backlog for Indian IT workers will be eliminated as well. They're also going to make improvements to the STEM program. The STEM is the Science, Technology, Engineering, Math program, meaning that if you came on a student visa and you are studying science, technology, engineering, and math, it is going to be extraordinarily much easier to stay. We don't know what extraordinarily much easier to stay means. This is all that is being reported right now. Will you be able to avoid a PERM application and go straight to an I-140 like a registered nurse or a licensed physical therapist can do? That's a possibility. We don't know for sure, but I would guess that would be the possibility, that if you're science, technology, engineering, math, you avoid PERM and you go straight to an I-140. That would be my guess. That's what it's going to be. They are also going to increase the visa lottery from 50,000 to 80,000 immigrants. They are going to expand for the first time access to free lawyers if you're in deportation. They're going to approve the asylum and U visas and VAWA cases to make those cases go faster. Right now, for example, they only give 10,000 U visas out a year. The backlog for U visas is 10 years. U visas are people who were the victims of very serious crimes in the United States and helped law enforcement investigate and prosecute these crimes. They are now going to increase the U visa cap from 10,000 to 30,000. There's also going to be a provision in the law that will prohibit future presidents from ever making any bans on Muslim and African countries. So the future Donald Trumps of America will never be able to to the African and Muslim countries what Donald Trump did. They are going to aid Central America. One of the problems with all the migrants coming from Central America is that the U.S. government has cut off aid. If we can make people's lives better where they are, hopefully they don't need to escape and come to America. And finally, they're going to fund immigrant integration initiatives at the state, local, and community level. Not sure what that means, but hopefully that will benefit people too. All of this, Yo-Yo, is not a fact that this is going to happen. Why? Because this is Joe Biden's proposal to Congress to pass. Congress has to pass something. Now, we know the House of Representatives will most likely, because there's a large majority of Democrats there, the House of Representatives will most likely pass this. Now, in the Senate, it is 51 to 50. You need some Republicans to come on board, simply because I know there's one Democrat, Joe mentioned, who is from West Virginia. He is not going to vote for this. So we need moderate Republicans to come on board. There are moderate Republicans who would vote for many of these provisions, but they're going to want their own provisions in order to be swayed to vote for this. So there's going to be changes to these laws and proposals. We still have not seen the actual legislation. I hope to see it soon, and we will see what happens. Joe Biden says, Kamala Harris says, the administration says he wants this done in 100 days. So we will see what happens. In addition, by the way, which is also very nice, the U.S. Embassy in Kabul said they are going to resume processing thousands of stalled visa applications for Afghans. The State Department official said the embassy would begin a phased resumption of in-person interviews in February. More than 7,000 special visas allocated by Afghans by Congress in 2020 went unused. Unfortunately, for those who want to travel or want to have their families or girlfriends or boyfriends come visit them from Europe or Brazil or South Africa, unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a little longer. Joe Biden said he's going to reinstate the re-entry ban on nearly all non-United States travelers trying to come into the country from the United Kingdom, from Ireland, from 26 other European countries. Basically, they call it the Schengen zone, Brazil, and now South Africa. And this is going to go into effect or continue on January 26th of this year. So this is what basically is, so you understand. If you are in South Africa, if you are in Brazil, if you're a U.S. citizen, you can come back. No problem.
Okay.
If you are a lawful resident, you can come back. No problem. Everybody else has to be out of that zone for at least 14 full days. Let me tell you what 14 full days means. So, for example, I get these calls all the time. I want my boyfriend, girlfriend to come visit me. But they live in Europe. They live in Brazil. They have visitor's visa, but they're banned. What do? You have to go to a third country that is not banned. So you have to go to Mexico, the Caribbean, I don't know, Bermuda. Anywhere that is not Europe, anywhere that is not Brazil, and now South Africa. And you have to be outside of that zone for 14 full days. What does 14 full days mean? It's reality, it's 17 days. Because the day you fly in is not counted, the day you fly out is not counted, and you need 14 full days. So 14 full days is 17 days, including your day in and day out. So you got to be out of Europe, out of South Africa, out of Brazil for 17 days, and then you can come to the United States on your visa. That is what is the law right now. Joe Biden is going to continue it, and it is a result of, obviously, of coronavirus. And now South Africa has a ban too, because there is a very bad viral strain coming out of South Africa that perhaps, and we'll talk about this another day as well, that perhaps the vaccines that are being given may not be able to prevent, perhaps, and perhaps also they say is much more passable from one person to the other. So unfortunately for people in Europe, Brazil, South Africa, you need to, it's 17 days. If you go 16 days out, they're not going to let it. allow you into the U.S. You always read 14 days, but it's 14 full days, 14 full 24-hour days. So that means it's 15 days because you got to finish the 14th day. 15 plus a day in and day out. Those don't count because you weren't there for a full 24 hours. 17 days outside of Europe, UK, 17 days out of South Africa, 17 days out of Brazil. And in addition to that, coming into the United States from all over the world starting on January 26th or shortly thereafter, they are going to require everybody, including U.S. citizens who were flying into the United States, to prove that they are COVID-free with a COVID test taken within 3 to 4 days prior to travel. There is your immigration news of the day, Yo-Yo. I am so... Oh, hello, Vanessa. Pandemic traffic.
I had some technical difficulties, but I'm here now.
I was told it was pandemic traffic, but who knows? But welcome, welcome.
All in one.
What I'd like you to do is after the show, just rewind and you can catch up on all your immigration news. We just finished it all.
I was listening.
Oh, you were listening.
I'm actually just trying to get used to all this Biden, all this, yes, Biden, no more working these amnesties, no more bans. I was like, what? This is a whole new voice. I'm feeling the vibes already.
This was our first pre-Pumpkin Monday.
I love it.
That's why we call it Fuzzy Monday, because it is pre-pumpkin. This is the first day that I was able...
Well, post-pumpkin, Brad.
Post-pumpkin,
post-pumpkin?
Right. Post-pumpkin. This is the first day that we were able... This was the first day that we were able to go through an entire schmooze with all good news.
It felt great.
Right. That's why when you skipped out on the corona part, I'm
like,
we can skip the count for today. We can skip the count for
today. We can skip the count for the day because this is Good News Monday. A wild video captured on an American Airlines flight shows a kangaroo Joey called Harry hopping his way onto a flight. Can you imagine getting on an airplane and there goes a kangaroo flying down the aisle? The video taken by flight attendant.
Oh.
Yeah, the video taken by flight attendant Bobby Weston shows the small Joey making his way through the cabin of the flight, which was heading from Charlotte, North Carolina to Virginia.
What?
How did a kangaroo get on an airplane in the United States? There's no kangaroos in the United States.
Well, was it a pet?
A pet? We don't know. The Joey makes his way toward the pouch, stopping every so often to look about the cabin. Harry was being flown as part of a conservation effort. The kangaroo appeared to have fans as he made his way through the airport with fellow passengers. Footage of the kangaroo on the plane comes after United announced early in the month that it will no longer allow passengers to book free travel for companion animals, but apparently they allowed this kangaroo on the plane, but it got loose. But people love the kangaroo.
Yeah, yes. I couldn't even imagine seeing it. Yeah, kangaroos are cute.
It's cute, but kangaroos are dangerous. But I think that's a small one, so I think that's okay.
The big ones are dangerous.
The big ones, yeah, because the big ones will kick you in the face and knock you out for sure.
Yeah. They're strong. Right. Those big ones are strong.
Yeah. A goat and a dog were each elected mayor, and they have helped raise money to renovate a Vermont community playground. The idea of pet mayor elections to raise money to rehabilitate the playground and to help get local kids civilly involved came from town manager Joe Gunter. I believe the dog and the goat can't do any worse than the mayor of this town, all right? Because, I'm very down on politicians these days. In 2018, it's in Fairhaven, Vermont. Lincoln is the goat. He raised $10,000. While the current Mayor Murphy, a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, raised $20,000. The town chipped in another $20,000, and the mayors, they were able to build the playground for the kids.
Look at that.
Not bad.
Makes hope.
There's hope. Maybe we should elect animals to all our posts, right? It's
right. It seems like there's success when that happens.
Yes.
We see changes in the community.
Meanwhile, an orphan goose named Lil Bob has no idea it's a bird, says the Ohio man raising it. While driving in Mason last spring, Joe Sponger came across a family of geese trying to cross the road. He told CNN, "We were sitting there for 30 seconds and a guy decides behind us that he wasn't going to wait. He went around us and he killed the mother, the father, and the 3 siblings, and only Bob," that's very sad, only Bob was the survivor. So Joe Sponger, he's a nice guy. He rescued the little goose and feared it would not survive because it feared it would not survive the night. 10 months later, Lil Bob, they call it, is now a beloved member of the family, spending days strolling through Cincinnati's parks with Sanger and his dog. When they're not taking walks, the trio like to hang out on the couch, and Sanger says, we watch TV together for hours at a time. They potty train the goose, and it also rings a bell to go to use the bathroom when it needs to go outside. How are they able to train a goose?
I don't know, but you know I don't like birds, so.
I couldn't even train my dogs. My dogs were peeing everywhere. I'm like, don't, stop it. Stop peeing everywhere, damn dog.
I always forget your thing with birds, Yo-Yo. Sheesh. That's a trained bird. You can work with that one.
Ambum, a silverback gorilla, has received a lot of attention for performing a trick where he walks upright like a human. Ambum lives in Kent, England. Most of the time he looks like a regular gorilla. He walks on his feet and hands just like the rest of the gorillas. But every so often he starts to show a tendency to walk upright like a human being, and it's quite a sight to see. He began by standing up and balancing on his feet for short periods of time. Eventually, with some practice, he started to take some footsteps. The 6-foot-tall gorilla is quite an imposing sight, and his unique ability has surprised not only the visitors, but the caretakers as well. And whatever his reason for walking upright, it's impressive to watch a gorilla wander around the enclosure like a human.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Hello, Darwin. That's what happened. Okay, because, you know, millions of years ago, the apes started walking upright.
Yeah.
And the apes turned into me, Yo-Yo, and Vanessa, right? We all turned we all came from apes. Amen. At least if you believe in Darwin.
Exactly.
I was just going to say, as so many people believe.
Not everybody believes it. Some people believe the Bible, you know, that we were just made, there was no ape. We just 7 days, boom, we were there.
It was just a big boom, yep.
A big boom, and we were there. Other people believe
our dinosaurs.
Some people came from UFOs and just dropped us off here. So who knows? Who knows, right?
Never know, man.
Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.